I'm just Mr. B. If I wasn't him, then I'd be me. Welcome to the Film Dogs.
Good evening.
Hey, Lord Marcus.
Hello, Mr. B.
We're here tonight, today, in the future, in the past. Jinx, buy me a Coke.
Coke bot.
We're here to talk about the Goss on the Goss.
Sir Gosling.
Sir Reginald Gosling III.
Domain.
And The Fall Guy, his newest film.
Yeah.
Which we have both seen. And we are also here to talk about what we reckon are the top 10 Gosling films / performances.
I would like to personally say that one of the reasons that I've been enthusiastic about this episode is because I love Ryan Gosling, and I think we've referenced him on previous episodes, and we've got a mutual love for him. I just can't say enough about how charming he is. Like, he just embraces this movie star quality. He has a wide range of type of performance that he can deliver. And he just rarely has a misfire lately. And I think he's definitely in our sort of mutual Venn diagram of actors that we both love. And there's a couple other people in there, but I would say he's probably definitely near the tip of that Venn diagram for what we like mutually. So it's nice to have things that we can talk about and agree on, but still enough of maybe of a contrast that we might disagree on if we're talking about the best of his filmography. It'll be interesting. And I've enjoyed doing some research and doing some rewatching.
You know, as they say in Seinfeld, you gotta love the Goss. Or I guess they said the Drake, which we were just talking about the Drake.
Oh, my goodness.
And the beef with Lamar, is that how you say it?
Yeah. If anybody wants to chime in and give us a comment on where you stand between the Kendrick Lamar and Drake war that's going on, Lord Marcus fully is on the K-Dot stand. So,
ooh,
yeah.
I've
always been a big Kendrick Lamar fan.
You've heard it here first.
Yeah.
On the Film Dogs.
Oh, show. Oh, shiz. Even though Drake is from Ontario, as is Sir Ryan Gosling, but as I understand, Mr. Gosling, Sir Gosling, now resides in Los Angeles. So he's probably more on the Kendrick side. Maybe he would like to join in and let us interview him and say, where do you stand? And Sir Ryan Gosling, where do you stand?
Yeah, if anybody's got like contacts for his publicist, pass him through. We're happy to chat about Canadian
we're also happy to provide the address of where we record if he wants to stop by the next time he's in Australia. Great. Awesome.
But we can come to you.
We could. I would.
I
will.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Come on, G.
Make it happen. The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy. My goodness.
Was this a movie? So I drafted this movie in our 2024 anticipation draft.
No, you did not.
I didn't?
You definitely did not.
Well, we're going to have to cut that out of the pod, or we're going to leave it in there for posterity's sake.
Yeah. I re-listened to our anticipation draft.
Did I talk about this movie?
I had suggested that maybe when it was dwindling down and you took challengers, I was like,
okay.
you don't want to get Fall Guy? Now you were like, oh, it's going to be definitely, I want to go for something, I want to take big swings and big risks. Left it on the board. It's available for free agency.
Yeah.
It's available for free agency.
It's true.
Yeah, if you want it. If you want to pay for it.
If you want it. Mr. Lord Marcus.
Yes.
Do you want it? We watched this movie.
Yeah.
Separately.
I would open some bidding on it really low.
Some low bids.
I wouldn't fight hard for it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
What'd you think?
I was able to take Mrs. B to this one. It was a date night film.
Nice.
I knew that she would come along and that she would be happy because it's Gosling, it's funny, and it's kind of like a rom-com, and that's at least that's the vibes that we knew. That's what you see in the trailers.
Yep.
Safe assumptions. And it was fun. She walked away kind of going, oh, man, I haven't had this much fun in a movie in a while. This was great. Loved it. Oh, it was so funny.
Probably since Barbie, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she loved the Barbie.
I was not really keen on going to see it in the theater. I will admit, it is not my brand of film at all. However, on your recommendation, I was like, hey, like just for the sake of talking about it and having a good conversation about it, I wanted to definitely have some ammunition to fight against having Barbie on our list. So I was like, man, if I got to see Fall Guy to do that. Hey, but look, when we get down to it, this isn't the Lord Marcus show. It's the Film Dogs. So if Barbie ends up on the list, we will note that I am willing to compromise.
Well,
it's a relationship, and it goes two ways.
Well, Lord Marcus, we do this pod, not just for us. So I would be very interested on people's takes on our top 10 Gosling films.
I concur. I liked The Fall Guy. It's just not my, like, I'll tell you this. I did not want to go see it in the theater. It's something that I could have waited for because, look, I'm just not into big action movies unless it's something, super sci-fi heavy or by a director that I really love.
Yep.
I don't think I've seen anything by David Leitch before.
You've not watched, you don't watch Deadpool 2 or Deadpool or Bullet Train?
The first one. I didn't know he did Bullet Train. I did like Bullet Train.
He did do Atomic Blonde as well. Not that I would ever think that would be a movie you saw, but that was a popular Charlize Theron.
I saw the original Deadpool, but I've not seen anything else after. I've really distanced myself from any kind of that brand. Yeah,
considering he was the Deadpool guy and then Bullet Train. Did you watch Bullet Train?
I did. I'll say I did enjoy Bullet Train.
Okay.
I went in there for Brad Pitt and
100% same.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised. That was sort of. I didn't see it in the theater though. I watched it on Prime on a big screen TV, which is how I like to kind of consume those movies rather than dishing out a bunch of cash at the theater. But hey, look, I was pleasantly surprised. But I'll say this: I sort of predicted what my rating would be going in, and it was correct.
Yeah.
I knew what I was going to get, and I was correct. And I was sure that Ryan Gosling would impress me as he always does, and I was correct. I was surprised by Emily Blunt, who I'm not always the biggest fan of. No disrespect. I like her fine. But I just was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work for me. And surprisingly, I thought they had really good chemistry on the screen. I laughed a lot. I really thought the first hour was pretty fantastic. And then it waned pretty heavily. Like I've really kind of lost, I lost interest after like the first hour. But the first hour, I was laughing out loud. I think that Ryan Gosling is just immensely charming, and that like this is his. He could do this with his eyes shut, but he doesn't. He takes all of his roles very seriously, and this was just it was really good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah, it was the kind of movie that, knowing the director, knowing this is the follow up to Gosling's Ken, which I guess you could either he's not somebody that. He has such a range that you can't really typecast him anymore. But Ken is kind of the role that you could be worried would be looming over you for the rest of your career, that people would only maybe see you as that. But that's why we are here today to tell you that is not who he is.
I'll say, I'm super impressed his dedication to his craft because, man, at his age, to keep abs like that is just not very easy to do. It's crazy. Like he's got some really good genes, and probably a lot of hard work goes into it. I'm sure, and I'm not disrespecting that, but man, he looks really good for being a man in his 40s.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, impressed. I see I see the attraction with females because he's charming. He takes care of his body. He's fit.
Yeah.
He's a charming family man.
Charismatic,
very charismatic. Hugely talented, takes everything extremely seriously as far as what his work is concerned, but I think everything else he doesn't take extremely seriously, which makes him kind of a fun-loving guy.
Exactly.
Life of the party kind
which
of
is kind of what this movie was.
Yeah, totally.
And even kind of like leading up to it, knowing we're not fully hitting summer blockbusters for America at the moment. They're going to start trickling in, but this was released in May, first week of May for us in Australia.
Were you ever exposed to the original television show that it was based on, The Fall Guy, with Lee Majors, the Bionic Man, $6 million man?
I do know the Bionic Man, $6 million man, but I had not watched the show.
So Lee Majors, who was the star of $6 Million Man, his sort of follow-up TV show was The Fall Guy. And I was really waiting for the television show's theme song to come on that it introduced with. And it did during the credits of the movie. They ended up playing it, which was like a cover version by whoever the popular trendy country artist of the day is. I kind of just wanted a little bit more of a flashback to the original. But it was like at the time when TJ Hooker was coming out, and it was like late 70s, early 80s, and it was like Saturday Night Fair. It might have even started on Friday night. So like in the late 70s, early 80s, the show Dallas was big, and it sort of, for a while, The Fall Guy preceded Dallas. And then I think it got moved to Saturday night. So it was like TJ Hooker and The Fall Guy double features every Saturday night for a couple of years. Standard fare for what the time television has aged really well.
Yep.
I doubt that it would really impress anybody to go back and watch it. It would just look kind of very poorly edited and very poorly acted.
I did really watch a lot of those shows growing up. But no, The Fall Guy wasn't one of them. So I didn't have a relationship with it. I was just aware that it was based off of a show.
Like with the sound effects in the movie, they did have the Bionic Man. Like when the Bionic Man is jumping, it has that. Yeah. They had a couple of those during the film. I thought maybe that was like some good homage.
Yeah, it has some pretty good like wink, wink, nudge, nudges.
Oh, a bunch. Oh my goodness,
to it in the film.
I was impressed by I guess the screenplay, like all of the homage that they paid. There was like lots of movie quotes. There was lots of references to other films. Like this is definitely a big I love Hollywood film. Filmed in Australia, but it was great. I enjoyed it. 3.5. What would your guess be? What's a global box office going to be?
Global. See, that's an interesting question because I'm wondering about the summer blockbusters and trying to compare it to that, which I don't think we can, and I don't think it's going to do those kinds of numbers.
Next week, Planet of the Apes coming out. A week after that, Furiosa.
Yeah. The slate is just only kind of looking up.
It's not really going to have strong box office legs. Just
correct.
It's just not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if there's any kind of stay power with it. Because it is an action rom-com.
I guess depending on how women respond to it is generally, I could see it being date night films for a couple more weeks.
Yep.
But is that going to propel it into the above 200 million? I'm kind of guessing global box office. I'm going to predict 150 mil.
I was literally just going to blurt out, maybe 150.
It'll be a box office star, but not a huge
I was
one.
wondering if it could hit 175, but in my gut, I'm thinking not. So it's a 150.
I would not be surprised if it didn't crack 100. But I think largely that's just because I think that the third act is kind of you have to be you have to really be a fan of Ryan Gosling and not he can definitely get people into the theater, but it doesn't have the spectacle. Of I guess it kind of does.
Well, let's maybe break down the premise a bit for the show.
Sure.
Doing our best to maybe avoid some spoilers.
Let's just do a synopsis and then some highlights of what we thought was really good.
So it really just tells the story of Ryan Gosling's character, Colt Seavers, who is one of the best stuntmen in Hollywood. You would call it current time. It is kind of meant to be like it's a almost meta film,
totally meta
that they're playing themselves, which made it fun.
Totally.
The kind of the winks and nudges made the film for me more than not, because I found a lot of the writing and the story to honestly quite cheesy. but Gosling carries it so hard all the way through. You're just there watching him, seeing what he's going to do with this character. But it tells his story where he has almost a career-ending accident as a stuntman, and kind of goes off the face of the earth, loses connection with friends, family, that sort of thing, and maybe a potential love of his life. Gets a phone call from one of his producers that he always worked with, because he always stunt doubled for this famous Hollywood character played by Tom Ryder.
No, Tom Ryder.
Sorry, Tom Ryder.
Played by Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson a lot, but yeah, Tom Ryder, I think, was definitely a sort of a hybrid between Tom Cruise and maybe Brad Pitt. But like sort of one of his catchphrases, "I do all my own stunts."
Yeah.
Like that's definitely winking at an action star that does his own stunts, but doesn't really do his own stunts. It was pretty good.
Yeah, and he gets a call to offered another job that he wants to turn down, but he finds out that maybe this potential love of his life is actually going to be there, and he hasn't talked to her since the accident, so decides to take that plane ticket, and finds out that he's not just asked to stunt double for who he's always stunt doubled for, but that this character, Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, is missing during this film that he's shooting, and his producer is wanting Gosling to chase down the character and find him and bring him back and help him finish the movie. So, interesting premise on paper, but when you see that it's meant to be a romantic comedy action film, you really wondered how they were going to play it out, and kind of how the biggie I was looking forward to seeing was what kind of chemistry Gosling could have with Emily Blunt's character and how they played off of each other. And I find Gosling, like we always just doted over him on his charisma and charm, both on and off screen. So you kind of assume Gosling can make it work with anybody that he's on screen with. But I wondered if you could buy the love or see the connection or see the fun chemistry between them. And what are your thoughts? How'd they do on their on-screen chemistry?
I gotta be honest, like I thought it was really, really good. But in retrospect, like they did not have a lot of scenes where they were together. Like a lot of their like a lot of the film was she was in one location, he was another, so like by phone or texting or video, or like she had a single scene and she was thinking about, so they didn't share like a lot of in the same room screen time, and it still worked. Like I have to say, like I still bought it. They did have scenes where they were together, obviously, and the chemistry was great, but I'm kind of a little bit I don't want to say blown away, because it's not blown away, but sort of leaning in that territory of being blown away that their chemistry, without even being in the same room together, it was very like classic romantic comedy, witty banter between the two of them, and sort of trying to find that reconnection. Extremely funny and gentle and warm-hearted, and there was like no real, like anger or bitterness, that maybe some disappointment that was left over. Like it was fun. There wasn't a whole lot of negative vibes in it. I thought they had great chemistry together. I thought it was unique the way that they sort of had on screen, between the phones and some split screens. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, and they let Emily Blunt kind of be her British self in this film. Yeah. Interesting to see performance post Oppenheimer. Here's the next movie she's in, next big release. Ryan Gosling. What's the next big movie after Barbie that I am going to star in? The Fall Guy. So there, like, for me, there was a big anticipation for this film the moment I kind of knew it was dropping. And even though we knew the premise and kind of knew the story, and that it was going to be this romantic comedy thing, I was okay with that.
But I think, like when you've had that pressure where you, maybe more for Emily Blunt because she's coming off, a very celebrated movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to take the first thing that comes across the desk. and just release yourself from the pressure. Like you don't want to like search for the next big prestige project because it could be years. Like you just like find something that's right for you. No matter what it is, if it's a goofy romantic action comedy with Ryan Gosling, you take it, and the same for him. It's like, it's a little bit bigger of a role than what Barbie was. It's more of a lead role where Barbie was definitely more of a supporting role.
Yeah. And I mean, he's no stranger to holding a film and being the lead character.
He definitely, he carried the film. I'll say this. I liked it. It was 3.5 stars. I don't feel that there's many other actors that could have done this film.
Correct.
At all. And it'd still be the same film. Now, you could have somebody like Brad Pitt come in and do something similar.
Yeah, there were moments where I felt that could happen, that it could be him.
But I don't think that it would have been anywhere near as charming. And that's not to say that Brad Pitt's not charming. It would have been more like Bullet Train, which was like, it was a lighthearted, super violent, ultra violent, and this was not that. So it just has that certain Gosling characteristic to it, and I think it would not have been the same film with anyone else.
And it's quite a young cast that it was built around outside of them.
Yeah.
So even all the film feels like it's really it is for this current day and age and for millennials. Here's a millennial rom-com. It doesn't remind me or give me nods of Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan. This isn't an 80s rom-com. This is kind of what our modern ones are. And I kind of wondered, could I like a modern one? And like you just said, he carries the movie. Gosling does. I don't know if it would work if it'd be anybody else. 100% agree. I'm not sure with the third act, with the writing. It's okay to be entertained at the theater. This is not us crapping on the movie. We're not crapping on the movie. 3.5 stars for us is
it's good.
Is entertaining. We're like, I'm happy to watch a movie like that.
I enjoyed. It's a popcorn movie. It was totally escape. You don't go into this film looking to match Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Like, you're just going in to just have a good time, and it delivered that.
And I think that's one of the main points of the pod for us is we want to rate movies for what the movie's meant to be, and recommend a movie for what that movie was meant to be.
For sure.
I'm not going to give this movie 1 star because it didn't blow me away.
Hey, I'll say this is that even if I had thought it was a 1 star, I would not have brought up a rating at all. A 3.5 star is like, it's one above completely average. It's just not in my stellar range, but look, it was good. I definitely recommend it, and I recommend it particularly for audiences that kind of don't go to the theater very much. It's kind of like one of those, like with Barbie, in that sense where it attracts people that maybe only go to the theaters once a year.
Yeah.
I think that this is the type of film that for, kind of average cinema goers would really like this a lot. But if I thought it was a 1 star, like I wouldn't beat up on it at all. I don't want to advertise that I feel like maybe later in this episode I will, but overall, I'm not here to sort of destroy the filmmakers and their projects and their art at all, and especially Mr. Gosling. But anybody involved in this project, I celebrate all of them. So
yeah, this is the perfect date night movie.
I think
of all ages.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to be entertained. You will be able to lose yourself for a couple hours in the theater and laugh and enjoy yourself. And I found the stunts that they did. The film is meant to be a bit meta, so I found the way how they shot that and how they tried to include some crazy stunts for a stunt movie. I thought the stunts were pretty cool. They did really well with the marketing behind the movie, even if you saw like how some of them showed up at different premieres or at different interviews and stuff like that with his own stuntmen, doing backflips off of balconies and Gosling just walking on stage. But it is a fun rom-com that I was happy to see with my wife, to be entertained and to just get more charisma from Gosling. Just see how is he going to bloom in his career, which you're going to hear this word bloom a lot because I'm on this word at the moment. I love flowers.
And it's springtime
It's springtime
in America.
in America. Not in our country, in Australia.
It's always the eternal summer.
Yeah.
There ain't no blooming here.
Did you take
No,
Nicola this?
I went solo. She was working.
Okay. So this was a solo watch.
Yeah. There was I had a pretty empty theater too. There was some older couples.
Yeah. So was ours as well, which I just found a bit odd that it was not even a weekend and it was a bit empty. We don't live, for podcasters, we don't live like in the big city where, we're a 30-minute drive. But
you went on a weeknight, yes?
Yeah, a weeknight.
Yeah, the weeknights tend to be a little
quieter.
Yeah, I went on a weekday afternoon,
which I would assume would be quiet.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. Hey, look, I definitely recommend for people that just want a nice, good popcorn action flick rom-com that's going to appeal to everyone. Definitely, as Mr. B said, great date night film. It's got enough to keep both parties entertained for 2 hours and 6 minutes. Yeah, I recommend it.
Thumbs up. I think I gave it 3.5 on Letterboxd as well. It's one of those where we go up to 5 stars because we like to live in the Letterboxd world. But we do wish that there were a better grading scale that we could slide in between those numbers, because I thought Gosling's performance, his charisma with Blunt and their chemistry, I didn't mind Hannah Waddingham's character.
Got a little predictable, like where that was going at the end.
Yeah, correct.
Aaron Taylor Johnson and his security crew and the stunt coordinator. It just all became maybe a little too 80s by the end of it, but it was a happy ending, and things like that tend to be predictable because they end up being formulaic. Like, you're not going to go off the deep end and have some weird Alex Garland ending when you've just had this big budget, action romp for the whole thing. It's not going to go deep into Lynchian territory at all.
No.
Which for me is like how third acts should be delivered for everything. But like, I live in the real world. I understand it's not going to be like that. And they're not making a film for my 5-star rating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, I couldn't say enough good things about it. I think most people will enjoy it. I wouldn't say that I would definitely ever rewatch it again, but if Darjeeling wanted to watch it, I'd probably sit there and watch it with her again and enjoy it and have a good time.
Yeah. It's the kind of this kind of movie doesn't come along this often, of seeing these kinds of characters together and it being higher than a 3.5 to 4-star film. But Gosling was just, he buys into his roles so much so that I just went, oh yeah, I'm in. I'll watch this movie. I can't wait till it comes out. I'll let you entertain me for 2 hours. And he does that, and he does it so well that it is a above average action comedy, and most people, I think, would be able to find some enjoyment in this film and like the film. Love the film if you're a action comedy person, but yeah, if you're expecting a little more meat and potatoes, it is quite the predictable movie that the everyday movie watcher would love.
Word.
Let's maybe jump into what we reckon are the top 10 Gosling performances, films.
I'm very excited to talk about what I think the top 10 films are and negotiate. I don't think that our list will exactly match. So we're going to do a top 10, not a top 5 each. We're going to pick.
Yeah, we're going to negotiate.
And we're going to give you a peek into how compromise can be good for everyone. I would like to maybe suggest that we start by sort of going through his feature films, starting from Remember the Titans.
Okay.
And we say whether we greenlight it, whether it's a maybe, or whether it's a definitely a big fat no.
Yeah.
And then once we have, if we've got 10 green lights, when we can look at the maybes, because I think there's a couple that I would like to argue for, and there's probably some that you'd like to argue for, and then we can kind of negotiate from there. So how about we start with Remember the Titans?
Yeah, and
Have you seen it?
And yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
From I think most people have seen this movie if you are 30 and above.
I'd say yes, for sure. Particularly, definitely American audiences. I don't know what it was like in Australia.
Yeah.
But everybody in America that was my age went to see Denzel Washington movies, and then you just get introduced to people along the way. And I like I wasn't aware of who he was at the time. Obviously, I think it was like his first sort of supporting role in a feature film. So for me, it would be a no, even though I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah,
if we're talking about Ryan Gosling film,
yeah, it's not the kind of movie that I'm watching for Gosling, and it's one of those that you. Maybe haven't watched in a while, but a lot of people have watched. You might even forget that he's in it. He's not bad in it. It is what it is. It is a great movie. Classic 2000 Boaz Yakin, the director. Don't really know him from anything else. And a stacked cast. It was one of those lightning in a bottle sports films that America loved.
Oh, for sure.
And it didn't matter.
And still,
it didn't matter where from, because I'm a Yankee. We don't love we love our football, but we're not as diehards as some of the people down south. So this is and even kind of the story that it tells. But yeah, beloved film. But yeah, I'm happy to not include it in the top Goslings.
Now, what I'll do is I'll go through some of these. I haven't seen all of them, and they might not have been in wide release. And so I kind of want to stick to what the wide releases are because we know that that's what we're going to end up actually picking. But he was in a film where he was a Jewish neo-Nazi called The Believer. I've not seen that.
Me neither.
A Slaughter Rule. Didn't see that. But I did see the next one, Murder by Numbers, with Sandra Bullock and Mr. Matt Pitt.
Yeah.
I didn't look. It was okay. It was sort of like he was still maybe coming of age at that point, a very young person. I thought that the movie was good. For me, the most interesting side note was that he started dating Sandra Bullock. And she was quite a bit older than he was at the time. So
yeah, I have a weird memory of this film that I'm not sure means I've watched the film because I am aware of everything about the film, but I don't have a memory of watching it. So maybe I have just wanted to have said that I've watched it.
I thought, I could be completely wrong, but I thought that you'd kind of watched, I thought you texted me one night that you'd watched it like recently, like in the last year or two? No? Okay.
Yeah. No.
It might have been a different one. Might have been Stay.
Yeah.
But for me, Murder by Numbers would be a no.
Yeah, at this point, I'm going to say no.
All right, so I did not see The United States of Leland, but then we move on to his definite introduction to worldwide fame in the adaptation of Nicholas Sparks' The Notebook.
The Notebook.
What do you got? Your feelings on The Notebook?
I have feelings on The Notebook.
Right
Maybe
on.
let's talk about those feelings.
Let's do it.
Feelings? Nothing more than feelings.
For me, at the moment, I would put it on for maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say maybe as well. Classic Nick Cassavetes film. Another one where I go, you ever watched anything else by him? Probably not.
But at the time, I was I like some of Nicholas Sparks's other his novels and some of his film adaptations, like Message in a Bottle. I really enjoyed with Kevin Costner. And Jenny from Forrest Gump, Robin Penn, the kind of phenomenon, like I think that most of the women that I know that they're 30 and above, this is probably one of their favorite films of all time. Yes. Like this is just, it's a very popular film for the diehard female romantics and maybe for male romantics as well.
Dude, if you were married, if you were dating, if you had friends that were women in 2004, they all told you about The Notebook and they all tried to take you to it. Or they all made you watch it at their house.
And they succeeded.
They did.
They probably both.
And you've probably watched it multiple times.
And you probably
with
own
multiple different women.
you probably own some sort of copy of it.
Yeah, that's correct.
And watch it every Christmas.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep this on a maybe. I feel like it's going to make it in there. I need to rewatch it to give it its proper time of day, to let it breathe, to let my mind not go back to the trauma of my teenage years and all those lost years with and all the women that made me watch this movie. I think my only resentment is probably not for the film. It was just probably for making me watch it. So it's probably actually a lot better movie than I remember. And it is a good movie. I just have a thing in my mind that I go, I've had too many women tell me, do you want to watch The Notebook? Are you in the mood for The Notebook? Oh, hey, want to watch The Notebook again?
Like it's a go-to movie for people that just want to have the one movie that they watch forever and ever and ever and don't really expand out and see other things.
Yeah.
Dude, like I lived in Atlanta and I lived in Baltimore, and there, like this wasn't. I wasn't living in Atlanta at the time, but there were other films that were like this. That when my family got together, because I've got 6 aunts, and every time that there was a family get together, oh, let's watch The Notebook. It's like, oh man, don't I have any uncles anywhere? Good Lord.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep it in a maybe.
Yep.
I'll say that I thought that his chemistry with Rachel McAdams was fantastic.
Yeah, she's pretty good in a lot of her roles where she's playing that
I'll say this
drama.
That's sort of interesting. He dated Sandra Bullock after filming Murder by Numbers, and then he dated Rachel McAdams for a number of years, and they reconciled.
And do you have another one? I have one.
Well, Eva Mendes.
He then made a Place Beyond the Pines and married her.
So let's move on. Stay with Ewan McGregor and Naomi Watts. That'd be a no for me.
This is, I have to be honest, I wish I have seen this film, but I have not seen it. I don't mind the director. He's not an Aces director, but he did World War Z, all right movie. He did Stranger Than Fiction, which I love that movie.
Me too.
Christopher Robin, which I loved as well. Finding Neverland. He's done some good movies.
All right, next up on the board, Half Nelson, for me, is a big fat yes.
Yeah, it's definitely in.
His first Academy Award nomination, and deservedly so.
When's the last time you've watched this?
It's been, I've not seen it in Australia, but I watched it, I loved it, I recommended it to my mom, and she watched it and loved it and bought a copy of it.
Wow, okay. You got your mom to buy a copy.
Yeah. I didn't get her to. She
did it.
Ryan Gosling did. Yeah.
Well, maybe unpack the film for us a bit more. Then this is a worthy talk about if it had such an influence, and also the first Academy Award nomination. And Mrs. Robinson bought a copy.
Despite his dedication to the junior high school students who fill his classroom, idealistic teacher Dan Dunn leads a secret life of addiction that the majority of his students will never know. But things change when a troubled student, Dre, makes a startling discovery of his secret life, causing a tenuous bond between the two that could either end disastrously or provide a catalyst of hope.
Yeah, so description off Letterboxd, which we get a lot of our info, which is why you should be on it, people.
You should be. And look, I guess to sort of summarize that in a more simple way, he's a junior high school teacher. He has a drug addiction problem. He has a very gifted student that sort of...
What kind of drugs, Mark?
Crack cocaine.
Ooh, yeah.
And so like the research that he apparently he did a lot of research, and for the role he went and lived in an apartment in Brooklyn to kind of get into the... He was ghosting a junior high school teacher in Brooklyn at the time to kind of see what life was like so that he could sort of get into that method acting zone. It's just wonderful. You know, like you see him in The Notebook and he's this charming guy, and this guy is not, he's not an evil guy. He's drug addict, but man, it was such a tender performance. He wasn't a violent drug addict. He wasn't a criminal drug addict, but he was a teacher. And he like
a broken man.
We put these teachers on pedestals, but they're humans, and I just thought this was remarkable. Not only from, sort of the director's point, but like he really just showed a side of him that was going to really come forth in the next couple of films after this.
Yeah,
and it's just subject material that is not tackled by a lot of people. So the director was Ryan Fleck, and
He's made some great movies.
he's made some bad ones too.
Yeah.
But he did Mississippi Grind, which I thought was really good. But most recently, he's done that Captain Marvel. He must have been in for a serious paycheck there. But Half Nelson, definitely from me. I recommend this. He was so good, and obviously the Academy thought so too. His first nomination, and as we said, it sort of put him on this role for the next couple of films to really be like sort of this indie art house darling.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Half Nelson as Green.
Yep.
The next one is Fracture with Anthony Hopkins. I know you've seen this one fairly recently.
I have watched it recently. Do you have any thoughts on it, if you'd want to include it or not?
I definitely would have it.
Because that will influence me in a...
I'd have it on a high maybe.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
And then we'll keep moving. We can unpack more films as we need to. I don't feel like I need to talk about this movie. I enjoyed it. Mrs. B, I even got Mrs. B to watch it with me.
It's a crime thriller, and it's got a couple of twisty turns. Stars Anthony Hopkins.
Yep.
I think that it's quite enjoyable.
It's got Rosamund Pike in it as well. Yeah.
I think that it would be sort of like a hidden gem darling movie if you were like just sort of searching through the Netflix menu.
Yeah, it's one of those
looking for something out. And
one of those early 2000s that really gets overlooked, almost like some 90s classics.
I really liked it a lot. I'm not sure that like it's the best feature for him. It's a good movie, but I think there's other people that could have done that role. And I think a lot of these films that we want to talk about is like it's his film, and Fracture, like he's sort of sharing it with Anthony Hopkins. And I think a lot of other people could have maybe stepped into that role.
It really captured for me the essence of what I liked about 80s and 90s thriller dramas. Like let's maybe list a few so that you know what I'm talking about.
Like Along Came a Spider.
Yeah, Along Came a Spider, but even some of the early Tom Cruise stuff where he loved playing lawyers, like The Firm. You know, stuff like that. There was just a tone of the film that reminded me of those, and I have a good memory of 80s, 90s dramas.
Yeah, it was a courtroom drama, but it was also a crime thriller, and it was kind of a little bit highbrow. A really nice twist ending. All right, so from there, let's move on to one of the films that I drafted in our 2007 draft.
Yeah, boy.
Lars and the Real Girl.
Yep.
And for me, it is a green light.
Yeah, Craig Gillespie.
You happy with it being in the green?
Oh, definitely green.
Cool.
Do you have any? Have you watched any of his other movies? Did you like I, Tonya or Corella? Have you seen Dumb Money, the newer one?
I have not seen any of his other films.
Okay.
I saw $1 Million Arm on a plane.
You've not seen I, Tonya?
No.
That's definitely worth your time.
Totally off brand for me.
That's why it's worth your time.
Okay.
Off brand and cast Margot Robbie. Come on. But this isn't the Margot Robbie pod. Yeah.
Lars and the Real Girl. Look, it is a really great film. I'll read the synopsis again. Extremely shy Lars finds it impossible to make friends or socialize.
No, I'm axing it. I'm cutting you off,
Okay.
and we're leaving it in the pod.
Boom.
I want you to tell me your
I did.
description.
I did on our 2007 pod. So go back and listen to that.
Well, now you have to give another synopsis.
All right. I'll give another synopsis.
Your thoughts are better than what somebody else's written thoughts are.
The premise of this film is that Ryan Gosling plays a character that is very socially awkward, maybe to the point where he might even have like Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
He finds it incredibly hard to form relationships, and his family is very concerned about him. And then one day he is very happy and has announced that he's found the love of his life, and everybody's very surprised. And it turns out to be a sex doll that he has formed this relationship with, that he is very romantically involved with. And it sounds like it's the most ridiculous story of all time. But let me tell you, another film that I got my mom to buy a copy of because it was so good. It sounds like the most ridiculous premise. It is heartwarming. It is family friendly. It is funny. It's charming. It's sad. It covers a wide range of emotions, and I can't say enough about it. It was lovely. It was beautiful. It was funny. Really, really good.
And it's not like a giant cast in it. What did you think about performances, and is this a strictly a Gosling film? Is he something that you feel like he's making the film and you're buying into him playing this character?
For sure. Well, Emily Mortimer's in it, and I think I had previously seen her in Match Point.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's kind of like the love interest that I think that they're making this sort of setup of, is he going to be able to overcome this and get the actual romance in real life, and it's sort of tragic in the sense that it's possible that he will choose the doll over the real woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say like most of the other cast are really sort of interchangeable. But she for at the time, and she's lovely. I would say that it's definitely, you go in today for modern audiences, you go into this film for Ryan Gosling, and it's his performance that really stands out.
Yeah,
she's great in it, and everybody's serviceable in it. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about like the other films, like with let's say, well, save it for the next couple of films where there are some supporting actors and actresses that are sort of essential to being in those roles. Well, like with The Notebook with Rachel McAdams, like if you're a Rachel McAdams fan, you go into that. But I wouldn't say Emily Mortimer is that big of a star that people like. She's got a drawing power. She's just a good character actor that is cast very well and does a very good job. But you're definitely going into Lars for Ryan Gosling, and again, sort of like The Fall Guy, completely delivers, completely worth the price of admission. Very difficult to find in Australia for all you Australia listeners. I'm curious about all you in Russia. If your local video store has Lars and the Real Girl or Netflix Russia, I definitely recommend it though.
Boom. Before we move on from it, last question. Does Lars remind you of anybody you've met in your life? Did you find his character relatable in any way, or did you just like the story and him playing that character? I find his character so interesting. I think it's
at the time he didn't remind me of anyone. I can't really say now that he does. He reminds me of some characters in some other films, like maybe the televised series of Fargo. He reminds me of some of the guys in that. Kind of a very Minnesotan type of. From the costume design to the accents. I'm not sure if it takes place in Minnesota. I don't remember, but it does have sort of that that semi-rural quality to it with the clothing and the big flannel shirts. But it doesn't necessarily remind me of anybody. I don't think.
Because I always I wonder, and I love how some directors are able to create characters or write characters that will only ever really live in a film. And then there's others that are written so well and so real that you go, I have lived that character's life, or you're like, I really know somebody that's just like that person. But yeah, Lars and the Real Girl is really worth your time if you can. If you're not in Australia, you probably can find this.
Probably. Now, with all of that beautiful eloquence, we're going to move into his next film.
Oh, God.
Which you could apply maybe some of those same analogies. Blue Valentine.
Yeah. Derek how do you say his name? Derek Cianfrance.
Cianfrance.
Who hasn't done many movies. You'd really only know him from his film after this, A Place Beyond the Pines, or maybe... he did a movie not too long ago called The Light Between Oceans with Michael Fassbender.
I would imagine that quite a few Australians have seen The Light Between Oceans.
Yeah. Yep.
Alicia Vikander and Michael Fassbender,
yeah. But Blue Valentine, 2010, just telling the story of a young married couple with a daughter kind of in rural America. I don't think do they ever give away where they're at?
I don't think that I know that I'm pretty sure that it was filmed in Scranton, Ohio, and you kind of get that vibe because I think that
really
was talking about
that vibe.
That they were sort of near New York City, but not so far, not so close to it that they would be considered New Yorkers. But it definitely had that northeastern Pennsylvania vibe to the scenery for sure. Yeah,
and it just tells the story of a young married couple in rural America that are going through relationship problems. But it just really tells the story of their early relationship. So it jumps timelines, and it will go back to where they first met. And then it jumps to current day of how they've aged and how they've aged towards each other, or maybe you could say away from each other. But starring, Gosling with Michelle Williams as his spouse.
She grabbed an Academy nomination for that one.
She did.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised not really many other nominations for this movie across the board. I had to do some digging because I just found this is a movie that I wish we could probably do a podcast on, but it'd probably be a relationship podcast movie, because it is a movie that really encapsulates what most any relationship could maybe relate to at one point or the other.
For sure.
If you've been with somebody for an extended period of time. But it kind of tells the story of he's not really going anywhere in life, and trying to find work, trying to find love. How do you find love? And you can tell he's the free spirit, kind of charming, cool guy, but you couldn't nail him down. Lives in New York. And she is a girl who's kind of ended up with maybe her high school lover, college age now. And he was maybe the successful jock. They don't spend a lot of time there, but you can kind of tell this dude was probably the charismatic school guy that people liked, but is a jerk to everybody else. And you would tell is a jerk in general.
I would straight up take a baseball bat to this dude's rib cage, the actor, if I ever ran into him, because he did such a good job of playing this guy that was such an incredibly
Mike
bad
Vogel.
person. Oh my God.
We're so sorry. If Lord Marcus sees you, run in the other direction.
For sure.
But take that as love. You did so well at your job that we hate you.
Kind of like Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Like if I ever say that, I kind of feel like there's certain people that they will never escape their villain portrayal. Man, this guy, I'll say this, I think that we could have this movie Blue Valentine on a kind of a relationship episode.
Yeah.
Because how many films really examine, most films either examine the beginning of a relationship or the end of a relationship, and you never really see the celebration of how much people are in love after 10 years together or 5 years together or however long. And this one kind of does a little bit of both. And really, it's just kind of the way that films avoid that, because nobody wants to go to the theater to feel depressed, or the state is like, well, there's no romance left after 7 years. That's just not the message that a lot of filmmakers want to give, but it's kind of an honest look at many relationships.
Yeah.
And I celebrate this. For me, it is a definite yes.
I gave it 5 stars.
Nice.
So for me, it's a definite yes.
Cool.
And word of warning, because we have to move on to other films. Watch this movie, but for the love of God, don't watch it with your significant other or at date night.
Yeah, right.
It will touch the heartstrings, but maybe in a negative way. And in fact, read some reviews of this movie. Because they have a common thread, and most of them say,
Yeah.
What have I done?
Join Letterboxd,
Yeah.
and follow us, and then you can look at all the reviews of this that we have liked, and you'll definitely see a common thread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
So
move on.
definite. All Good Things.
I have not seen All Good Things.
Neither have I. I wasn't even aware of All Good Things, and I don't know
good.
why.
With Kirsten Dunst.
I
I'm
know,
surprised you've
because
not
I
seen it.
like both. Yeah.
I'm aware of what the story is, but I think it's been for me, it's been an issue of availability.
Correct. Yeah. And it's really the director's only film, kind of. He's produced some other things. Yeah. It's not really well reviewed, and
By even people that love Kirsten Dunst or Ryan Gosling, it's they kind of consider it's like, oh, huge misfire.
Yeah. So I'm going to say no.
But now we move on to Drive.
Oh, yeah.
And Drive for
2011.
Drive for me is a big fat yes.
Big fat yes. 2011, Nicholas Winding Refn, the director.
who I love. Oh my God.
Yeah, you'd probably mainly know him from this film, but he's also done The Neon Demon, Only God Forgives, Pusher, if you've seen Pusher, and Valhalla Rising. I've not seen a lot of his movies, but I've seen a handful of them.
We've definitely seen what's available for us to watch in Australia for sure, and the rest of his films are on my watch list. Because I've only recently, I'd seen Drive, but I wasn't into directors as much then, so I watched Only God Forgives as sort of and The Neon Demon based on that I love Drive so much, and I think he's phenomenal. I really like him a lot.
Yeah, ace film.
Goodness, yes.
Another one where if you've not seen it, 100% worth your time.
It's an indie art house film. It's kind of more of a crime thriller. It does have a little bit of a romance angle in it, but like again, you're going in to see gritty, dark Ryan Gosling,
who's playing a stuntman again.
Yeah, he's good at it.
Yeah, I guess it just briefly tells the story of him as a stuntman who's also moonlighting as a getaway driver for criminals. And his kind of rule is, I'll tell you when, where, and you got this window of time. I don't want to know anything else about your job. All I am is a driver. But he meets a lady in his apartment. And madness ensues. Also starring Carey Mulligan and Bryan Cranston and Oscar Isaac even, and Ron Perlman. It's got a pretty loaded cast.
Albert Brooks.
It's got great supportings, and
This is not only for me as a massive green light, I would say for me it's going to be in his top 5. I love this film. I love it.
It's another one of those. Did you watch it when it came out, or how long into it being out do you think you watched it?
I definitely as it came out on streaming. I would have seen it or back,
like post theaters, because this is 2011.
It was definitely post theater, and our version of streaming was like SockShare or Yeah, so that's how I. Sorry, but I've paid to watch it more recently.
Yeah.
That was the only way we could watch things sometimes. So yeah, but I had seen it no later than 2012.
Yep.
But I wasn't as into it. Like I liked I saw it for Ryan Gosling, and I guess because I was watching on a laptop, I didn't get the full experience. But after having seen it recently on a nice big 65-inch, man, I love it.
Which is so funny because that was literally my experience as well. Not in theater, on a laptop.
Yeah,
probably around 2012. And did you know anything about the film before you had watched it?
No, I think just like buzz on the street because I use ebert.com to sort of help me filter out what I should see and not see, and they gave it a decent review, so I kind of knew what it was going in, and it is my brand of film, so sort of maybe a slow burner crime flick with some tremendously good acting that might not have it could have a happy ending, it might not have a happy ending. It's not required for me to really love it.
For me, it was one of those, I knew about the film going into it because there was almost like a cult following about the film because of how badass his character is and the storyline. It's a dark film. So I guess maybe that's the warning to people if you were going, oh, Ryan Gosling, oh, I should watch this movie. It's almost a 5-star film. You loved it.
It's a crime.
And then you throw it on. No, it's a crime.
It's an R-rated crime drama,
and it's violent.
Yeah.
And in fact,
it's my brand.
We won't give I won't give anything further away. But I had watched what made me watch the film is I was told about. Oh man, there's an iconic scene. Just like how you had a Fargo and
Civil War.
Yeah. There was an iconic scene, that has to do with violence. So if you're not really into that, maybe don't watch it. But I think you could and should still watch it. Maybe just close your eyes during some of the violence. The rest of it, the acting's fantastic, and the story's great.
Good. Oh, so good.
Automatic in.
Let's move on to the next one. Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah,
for me, I'd put it into maybe.
Yeah, I'd put it into maybe.
All right.
Yeah, not much more. We need to talk about it. Some people are probably like, "Well, why are you spending time talking about the other films and not these ones?" Well, we'll talk about the films that we love.
Yeah, because we're the film dogs and we do what we want.
Crazy Stupid Love, not a bad movie.
But his first film with Emily Stone.
Yeah, and
I I'm going to refer to her here on out as Emily, as she has requested.
Yeah, and it is a great movie. Steve Carell's in it as well.
Julianne Moore.
Yeah, Julianne Moore. It's a great cast, and it's another one of those. It is a movie that's more about.
It's almost like a Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah, it's more about Steve Carell than Ryan Gosling. It is exactly what you just said, which I was probably just going to say. It encapsulate that Judd Apatow kind of bumbling around life film. So it's a comedy, but it's a life film. But it's just there's some moments that are just so ridiculous that it reminds you of Apatow films. So it was fun. I even I got halfway through it again today as a rewatch, just because I wanted to have it fresh in my mind to see if it would be something that we could include or not.
I think
I'm indifferent at this point, so we'll say maybe for now.
Right on. Then we move on to the Ides of March. I know you've recently watched that.
Yeah. And
for me, it's a big fat no.
Yeah, but it's one of those, if we're comparing it to the movie before that he was in, Crazy Stupid Love, straight into Ides of March, I'd probably have to say Crazy Stupid Love is in, but we're not doing the 10 right now. We're culling.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say, I'm a no on Ides of March.
Awesome.
We'll just both say no, and if we need to come up with more, we can come back to it.
I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, George Clooney directed. It's a 2011 release as well. It's a political drama. I don't know if you would really want to call it thriller. It's really more just a drama around politics, and directed by Clooney. And I found myself saying this phrase while watching it. Why did Clooney want to make this film?
I say that about a lot of his films. Sorry, George.
And that's not a knock on him as a director or a person, because I actually really like George Clooney.
I love.
But there's
George Clooney,
something about when he's chosen to direct movies, they've not really been my cup of tea.
Now, his subject material that he chooses to direct is I never connect with the films he wants to direct.
Yeah.
But as a person, as an actor, as a philanthropist, as a human being, I love you, George.
And that's one of those reasons why I will watch your movies.
Film Dogs, we knight you, Sir Clooney.
Sir Clooney, you make great tequila as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you do great coffee commercials in
you make people want to drink coffee, which is, we're here for that. Even if it is an espresso, just more people drink coffee.
All right, so for next feature film, we got The Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah, so 2012 release.
Where he met his current partner and mother of his children.
Yeah.
What do you think about The Place Beyond the Pines? I know you just watched that
I just
recently.
watched it again. I want to do a rewatch because it was a film that I had watched in theaters, and it was one of those on purpose back my Sydney days when I was living in Sydney, and I lived not too far away from Fox Studios. I would always take a walk through Centennial Park on my day off, and maybe have a lunch or a beer or something on my own and read a book in the park, and then I would go to the cinema. Nice. And this was a movie that I knew I wanted to see. I was already a Gosling fan. This was also kind of where Eva Mendes was one of the, for my age at the time, a college age kid. She was kind of a thing at that time, like an MTV woman. She was popular. So it's like I was watching it for Mendes and for Gosling, and having this kind of up and coming Bradley Cooper, because I hadn't watched a billion films of Cooper. Besides his comedies.
I would have seen him in The Wedding Crashers, was probably my first exposure to him. And this might have been the next film that I saw him in.
I enjoyed it on the rewatch.
Oh, no, of course I saw him in The Hangover.
Yeah, I always knew him from The Hangover. What I would say about this film is I would leave it at a maybe for now, but awesome. I'm going to almost say, but leaning towards yes. And the only reason it's maybe is it's not Gosling's fault. It's partially a review on the film. It really splits into two films, and the second half to me was so much different than the first half in every way that all it made me want to do was have more of the first half and more of that life of Gosling and those characters and those relationships and him with Mendez and his boy that he finds out. All this stuff is do more of that. And instead, in the second half, literal second half, because it isn't a short movie, it's 140 minutes. It then moves directly to Bradley Cooper being the main character and telling his story. So it's, I guess, brief synopsis is Ryan Gosling is a carny circus folk.
Smelling of cabbage.
But he's like a daredevil bike rider for the carnivals and, in the cube of death, whatever, the dome of death, whatever we call that, where it's 3 motorcycles crisscrossing over each other. So you could tell he's got all these tattoos and he's got this jean jacket and a bandana and he walks into the film right after the opening credits and you can tell, he's meant to be the carny badass who just leaves town. And he's interesting, but he doesn't last long in the movie and we get Cooper instead. And I just say, make that movie with Cooper. Like, make another movie that is Cooper with his story as the dad and politics and the policeman and that sort of thing. Yeah, I did not enjoy it, but
so we'll keep it a maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
How about the next one? Gangster Squad reuniting with Miss Emily Stone.
Yeah, this was one that I wanted to like.
I did not.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, but I definitely don't like it either.
And I want it, and I don't hate it. I wanted to like it. I watched it in theaters. I wanted to like it. You rewatch it. I wanted to like it. All that sort of stuff. But I'm still not there. And it's one of those where you go, why does it not work? Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, Sean Penn, Nick Nolte, Emma Stone, Anthony Mackie. Just keep going down the list. It is a great stacked cast, and it's a gangster film. You would think it would be great.
Yeah, didn't work for me.
No. I'm going to do another rewatch of it again. Maybe it's a fifth time, fourth time, The Charm, something, but yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How about we move on to Only God Forgives?
Totally in.
Totally in, for sure. Thank you.
2013 release.
I'm glad we don't have to really put on the boxing gloves to get our favorite ones in here.
Nicholas Winding Refn directed as well, so like we said, same director of Drive.
Ooh. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting once we get into the ranking where we stick some of these.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, Lord Marcus, but we'll see.
I hope so. Only God Forgives follows a character in Thailand who runs a sort of a Thai boxing club and
a dojo,
an underground drug ring, and the mom comes in after a family member dies and tries to make sure that revenge is gotten. And there's a person that's investigating the murder at the same time. And it's very savage. It's very funny. It's very witty. It's very dark, and it's not for everyone. So like everything that we said about Drive, you times that by 10 when you put this one in. It is not for everyone.
That's a good gauge that you said on the note on Drive, because we love Drive. We already told you about Drive. If you did not like Drive, or it's not your vibe, then don't watch Only God Forgives. You won't like it.
You definitely won't. There's because it has a sort of almost the violence in it is kind of almost like Tarantino, where it's almost a little absurd, but it's still brutal.
Oh, it's very brutal.
But it's kind of meant like it's just sort of done in a way that is sort of maybe humorous, maybe it just has that Tarantino quality to it, where it's almost a little absurd, but it's never ending, and but it's beautiful. And again, Gosling shows what his range of a performer is. Yeah, because he hardly has any dialogue.
Yeah, it's dialogue light the whole film.
I bet he doesn't say 10 words in the whole movie. Well, he probably says 10 words, but but not maybe 11.
Don't quote us.
Hey, for all you guys that go out there and count how many words an actor says in a film,
go tell Sean Fennessy
go tell Sean.
That he would be interested.
He would be. He'll put it on a spreadsheet. But yeah, I enthuse. If you like Drive and you love Drive and you can't get enough of it, then put Only God Forgives into your queue, because this one I think you will love even more than Drive. Yep. All right, let's move on We've got next
The Big Short. Yeah, Adam McKay.
You've recently drafted this in a 2015 film draft.
I did. I have always liked this movie. Not even say liked. I've always loved this movie. There's something about this movie. It reminds me a lot of. It'll probably sound weird. It reminds me of Wolf of Wall Street, but it's the non-debauched version.
Sure. Yeah. Which very fair comparison.
And I would say that because there is the humor of Wolf of Wall Street, even though it's meant to be this absurd version about this dude's real life. Same as The Big Short, it is really telling you how did the housing market crash in America? How was that possible? And it tells it with humor, and it tells it really well to the everyday person who does not understand economics at all. It explains it. And I think that's what keeps me coming back to it. Cause I'll rewatch this movie probably every 2 years because I just found it so entertaining. It's another one where he's with Steve Carell, Christian Bale, John Magaro is in it as well. Gosling isn't even really a big character. He's a cameo in it.
And that's what I only wanted to address that you were aware of that because that's the only reason that I would I'd put it into a maybe.
You wouldn't give him a supporting for it. He wouldn't get nominated for supporting for it.
Kind of like with Matthew McConaughey in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Correct.
Like, he's just not in it enough that you would include it in a Matthew McConaughey film. But like I don't want to seem disrespectful to The Big Short, and I know that you love it, and if you want to include it, I am happy to do that, but my argument would just be that he's just not in. There's not enough screen time for it to. I would have it like a sort of an honorable mention.
That's where I'm going to say I'm agree with you. Yeah, cool. Is that it's not his movie. You're not watching it because of him. You like that he shows up in it. Yeah. Awesome. If we need something, we can come back to it to bottom fill. But
I don't think we will.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. Okay, so next up on the deck is Nice Guys.
Yeah, with Shane Black
with Russell Crowe,
2016, and the director, interesting director because he did Iron Man 3.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and outside of that, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Did you ever see that?
I did. I gotta be honest with you. It was one of those films where I was like, you know what? I just want to get hammered and go see a movie.
Okay.
And I did. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. And then I went back non-hammered and saw it, and it was not the same film.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Totally funny. So, but I enjoyed it. I think for people that are sort of into that, Boondock Saints kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It has that sort of almost indie, almost like it's got some cool things about it. It's got a bit of a cool factor. But overall, yeah. But we're not here to talk about Shane Black. We're here to talk about The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
What do you think? You like this movie?
I do like this movie. I don't love this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to say maybe or a yes at this point, knowing what we have.
How about we put it on the high end of maybe?
Yeah, done. Yeah, it just tells the story of a private eye investigates the suicide of a lady who does adult films in the 70s, and they uncover a conspiracy. Yeah, what did you think of The Nice Guys?
I got to be honest, it's just I could not connect with it.
Yeah,
and there's not a reason. Like on paper, it should work. It's just one of those things. It's my brand. I love Russell Crowe. Obviously, I love Ryan Gosling. Super 70s vibe. I just don't look. I would just say, like for me, it's a 3.5 star film. And when we're going through this entire filmography, it just didn't have enough to like really captivate me. It didn't for me, it didn't showcase anything that was like, I would say sort of dominant. And I think that it could work without Ryan Gosling. Maybe it could work without Russell Crowe. Maybe they had wonderful chemistry together. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I would give it an honorable mention, but for me, it's not good enough to be in the top 10. But if you felt differently, I'd be happy to.
No, we can keep it on maybe.
Okay.
Because I kind of agree as well. It's another one where I go, I wanted to like it, and on paper, like you said, it should be good. But I didn't connect either.
Awesome.
But that takes us to, what's this movie? 2016, Damien Chazelle. Oh, La La Land.
I'm filled with much stress about La La Land.
Well, you should be. Do you know why?
I do know why.
Because, is it because
the 2016 draft
Mrs. Blurry, my mother, has said that I live in La La Land?
Oh.
That was a number one phrase while we were growing up.
Yeah, right.
Are you in La La Land? And that's not a dig towards my mother. I love my mother. It's more of I just want to be able to reference this film because Lord Marcus, is this potentially like maybe one of your most favorite movies of all time?
Could I maybe...
You act like it in conversation.
Could I maybe give my official Letterboxd... Could I read my Letterboxd review?
Yeah. Because I don't remember what it would be.
Okay. My Letterboxd review for La La Land.
When was this written?
Just recently because
Okay.
I just joined Letterboxd last year. But I've definitely seen it many, many, many times. Yellow Heart. I could watch this on a train. I could watch it on a plane, etc. Yellow Heart. Seriously, I could watch this in any mood, any vibe, any setting, with anyone. I so wish I had seen it in a theater. This is easily my dozenth time rewatching. The long takes stand out in this film more than any other film for me. Chazelle was in the zone and brought the whole cast and crew with him. Now, I'm not anti-musical. I quite like a good number of them, but they're not an automatic like for me. With that said, this is probably number 1 or number 2 all-time musical for me, depending on the night. Probably, but not definitely, my favorite ending of all time. Of the best films I've ever seen, I probably in my adult life will have seen this the most. Maybe not an obvious Lord Marcus brand, but it is. Moonlight.
Yeah.
Moonlight was really good. La La Land will live forever. End of review.
Great review. I love this movie, but you love it so much. In a way that I feel like I don't know how to talk about this movie. I want you to just talk about this movie. Why? What is it about this? Because this is not a Lord Marcus brand film. This is anti-Lord Marcus brand film.
Well, first off, so the synopsis, if you don't know, if you've not seen this, I kind of assume that if you're listening to this pod, you know. But if you don't, it follows a struggling jazz musician in Los Angeles and a struggling actress who keeps getting denied auditions, and they meet and they fall in love and have a relationship. And as they get closer and get more confidence in trying to achieve their dreams, they realize that they can't do that together. And at the end of the film, they don't end up together.
Yep.
Now, one of the things. Now, this was like maybe. I'll be honest. Like while I was watching it, I was really impressed with Ryan Gosling's its approach to jazz as a whole, because I'm a massive jazz fan.
Mm-hmm.
And
jazz piano and jazz.
Yeah, jazz and jazz piano, specifically jazz piano, but definitely the whole entire genre. And the way that he explained it and he was passionate about it, like their chemistry was so good. And while I'm watching it, and I saw it like after all the buzz, and everybody said how good it was, and I still didn't know anything about it. I just knew that it was celebrated, and I think I'd even seen it maybe after the Oscars. So I was like, okay, it's finally time to see this, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, yeah, pretty good movie. I was super huge fan of Whiplash, so I was in Chazelle's corner, and I'm like, man, I'm not really sure what the buzz about this movie. Like, it's okay. Yeah, like maybe 4 stars at the best. I kind of feel maybe 3.5. Like these long takes are really good. I guess I see. And then the ending and the last scene for me propelled it into absolute the stellar sphere. Man, this was just the best ending scene in a movie ever of all time. It just elevated it connected all the dots through the rest of the film. Its theme of like for creative types that really want to go chase their dreams, it like puts to the forefront that you have to make a choice. If you want the romance of your life, the most burning, intense romance, you have to give up your dreams. And if you want your dreams, you have to give up the most intense, burning romance. And that is a theme that just resonates with me so hardcore for whatever reason. And this, like, for me, this film like is the epitome of that. And because I love what the characters do, like they're in, it celebrates Hollywood. And this scene where they're dancing in the observatory, like, all the creative choices. So then when I go back and rewatch it, I start picking up all these things, like the long takes. And you know how incredibly difficult that opening scene? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not really like,
Yeah.
the opening scene's not my favorite musical number in this film, but it was so hard to pull off because it is one shot.
For cinema, it's an iconic scene. It should be
on a Los Angeles highway where things could have gone wrong and probably went wrong many single times. For it to get pulled off like that, their dance scene when they leave, when they sort of meet together for the first time, and where the poster is, that entire scene. That was like a 10-minute scene where like they danced that entire routine. They didn't make any mistake. I wonder how many times they shot that. The lighting had to be perfect. They could only they had one chance to do that, to get the lighting in the way that they did. Like, not only was it just a masterclass by Damien Chazelle on how to direct a musical, but the chemistry between Gosling and Miss Emily Stone, and the ending, man, the ending crushed me. And it's one of these films that either it destroys you or it doesn't, and it destroyed me. And I love that. Like, it was so powerful. Man, I could watch it any single time, and I pick up something new. There's not a scene in there for me that gets old. I love the build up. I love how they meet. I love the banter. You know, man, I can't say enough about this film. I love it. And the look they give to each other at the end. Man, there's one. If I was an actor and I needed to cry on scene, I would put the ending of La La Land on every single time, because I cry every single time. There's just something that's like, oh man, the lost love, everything that they sacrifice is just there on their face, and they still end up, going with their dreams. And it's not a happy ending for them. It's a happy ending for them apart, but it's not a happy ending for them as a couple. And it's a tragedy. It's like Romeo and Juliet, but nobody dies. Oh, man, one of my favorite films of all time. I couldn't say enough about it. And so this is one I also tried to get my mom to fall in love with, and she did not connect with it at all.
You're telling me,
and my wife did not either.
You're telling me your mom bought Lars and the Real Girl,
but not La La Land,
and Half Nelson.
Yeah, but not La La Land, because she doesn't like jazz. Mom doesn't like jazz. I think it was mostly about the jazz.
Oh, that's so funny.
She likes happy endings.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, look, dude, this is
automatic in.
Automatic.
Yeah, brings us to 2017 Song to Song by Terrence Malick, starring Gosling, Rooney Mara, Michael Fassbender, Natalie Portman, Kate Blanchett, Val Kilmer, Patti Smith.
I've not had I have no availability to watch this, so I have not seen it.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that you hadn't seen it, or I rented this one.
Oh, right on.
Because we've talked about Terrence Malick a bit. So he was on my Terrence Malick research.
I did. We'd not talked about that, so I was not aware that you'd seen it.
Yeah, and rating wise for Malick's films, it's quite low, because if you look on all of his filmographies, they're usually 4 or higher. He's usually at a strike rate at that. And with this cast, you kind of wondered, well, why is everybody kind of not giving that much love? And there's a reason. I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah, my Letterboxd tribe is also not in love with it. There's one 4-star, and most of the rest of them are 3 and under.
Yeah, it's just it. I guess we'll just maybe read the premise and move on. I don't think I really need to include it in. It just says it's a modern love story set against Austin, Texas music scene, where it's two intertangled couples, struggling songwriters, Faye and BV, and music mogul Cook, and the waitress whom he ensnares. They chase success through a rock and roll landscape of seduction and betrayal. Interesting description. Yeah, it just kind of.
What did you think? Did you like it?
No, I didn't like it.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, didn't like it.
It's in my watch list. I could buy it on like it was available to buy on YouTube or I guess rent on YouTube, but like often I find I'm buying things that I'm not sure about, and I would rather rent, and they end up streaming like very recently after. So
Yeah.
I'm being patient with a lot of these things that I kind of feel like, especially given on your advice, if you didn't like it and you love Terrence Malick,
Correct.
and my
Yeah.
Letterboxd tribe is kind of like all 2.5s and 2s and 1s and 3s. Like, I'll definitely wait for that stream. But I'll watch it when it comes out.
And this will be I guess my slight on why I'm saying I think I don't like it, or maybe it's not worth your time, or it's not going on the Gosling list for me. I was maybe going through Malick fatigue, which I think can be a thing because they're not short films. They're always long films. And he has a specific film style. I love that film style. But if you watch it over and over again, you could maybe interpret this film being a lot of the same. And that would maybe be my review. A lot of the same.
Right.
That's not a negative. That's not a positive.
It's like
if you like Terrence Malick, you might like this movie. If it's one of the first ones you watch of his,
or like have it interspersed, like have a Terrence Malick film and then watch 10 other films by somebody else of different styles.
Yeah.
And then come back and do another Terrence Malick.
Yeah, I'm not convinced I don't like it, but yeah, I don't love it.
It doesn't jump out the way that like Tree of Life or Hidden Life.
And it's where it should because it's Malick and it's this cast and Gosling, but no, I'm going to say no on it.
Right on. Next up, Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve.
2017.
Automatic in.
Automatic in.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we even need to spend time on this film, not because we don't love it, but what is there to say about it? Because everybody should love this movie.
It's a follow-up to Ridley Scott's classic Blade Runner legacy sequel, one of the best legacy sequels of all time. I would say like maybe even in some cases surpasses the original. And I think I went in thinking, man, Ryan Gosling really for this for sci-fi, like a serious, like it probably could not be very good. I don't know. I'm surprised that I thought that, but I know that I did think that.
Well, I thought that as well.
And after seeing it, I'm like, oh, there was nobody else. Like, there's people that could do that role, but he was so good at it. Oh my God, he was so good at it. Yeah.
And that's a great catch, is saying, oh, there's a lot of people that could have done that role and done it well. You're right. But we got Gosling, and I loved it.
And he crushed it.
He crushed it.
Yeah.
Villeneuve crushed it.
It's not like what we said with The Fall Guy, where like if somebody else does it, it becomes a different movie. This is different. I think there's other actors out there that possibly could have done it. Now, whether or not they would have done as good of a job just really depends. But Denis cast it extremely well, and I would, I would love to see another. I'd like to see another sequel with Ryan Gosling in it.
Yes,
I'd
please.
Love it. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Well, it's definitely in. All right.
Yes.
Next up, we've got reuniting with Chazelle.
Yep.
With First Man.
2018. Tells the story of the moon landing in 1969. Well, I guess a look at the life of the astronauts leading up to it. But
starring Claire Foy.
Yeah.
Damon Chazelle's first sort of non-musical oriented film.
Mm-hmm. Kyle Chandler as well, which I knew him from more of his TV shows.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
It'd be a maybe for me.
But, agreed.
But if you love it,
I don't love it. We did have a conversation about it because we ended up we were watching some sci-fi movies and non-sci-fi. We did
The Right Stuff.
The Right Stuff,
and I thought that The Right Stuff just tackles this kind of subject material. Like for me, like so much better.
And it does. And it's not a bad movie, but for Chazelle, really doing amazing with what he's able to release at his age, up and coming. Like he's somebody that I can't wait to see in 20 years time, 30 years time. What's he making? I'm hoping he really has the stay power and that people will still be giving him money and shots to make movies.
He's making a prison film right now. So Just due to the sort of the box office failure of Babylon does not take away from what a fantastic film the Babylon is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God! I know we're not here to talk about just Giselle, but because we love La La Land and Whiplash, and we're talking about First Man.
Yeah.
All right. So First Man, we got maybe.
Yeah, we got maybe.
Next up, we got Gray Man. I did not like it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't seen it.
It's not.
And the reason is because everybody I have ever talked to about this movie, or any review that I have read, or any podcast that I've ever listened to that mentioned this movie, are all like,
it is way off brand for our current brand, and I don't think it's ever been my brand. But I watched it for Gosling, and I did not finish it. I did not like it at all.
Ouch.
I gave it about I watched about halfway through, and I was like, I can't take another minute of it. Sorry.
Yeah. It's almost like a bummer. That's why I haven't watched it, is I don't want to be bummed out, and I don't want to waste my time. And I'm really worried that that's what it is. But it is a bummer because you're like, come on, Gosling. You didn't need to do this.
Well, I think that he was probably like, should I throw my hat into the comic book hero action thriller? And this is
Let's
a way
blame
for him
his
to do it,
agent. It was probably his agent. He was probably thirsty. He was probably going, hey, we need some money.
I'll blame his agent.
Why don't we get him one of those gigs like Tom Cruise, where it's a multi-movie deal, and now he can become like MCU in a way or something.
He can do his own stunts.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I've not watched it. Let's not include it.
All right. Next up,
Barbie. Greta Gerwig, 2023.
I'll let you handle the entirety of the Barbie portion.
Yeah, I feel like we should have Dua Lipa playing in the background. It's in for me. It like automatic in. Iconic. You don't have to like the movie to not be blown away by Gosling's interpretation of how to play a Ken doll, or him singing and dancing to I'm Just Ken.
I would actually put his Oscar performance over the movie, if that was possible for us to do.
But it's in for me.
Right on. And here's the thing. When we first were tossing around the idea of a top 10 Gosling, I'm thinking to myself, there is no fucking way on this earth that I'm co-signing on Barbie being on a Film Dogs list. I don't care. But I've recently come around to thinking, you know what? Your opinion is valid, and I want to support you. And even though I massively hardcore disagree, I will support you even though I disagree. I will.
Oh, wow.
I will put it in the green mark.
Oh, but thank you, Lord Marcus.
But I will put a little check mark next to it, under duress.
I was going to say, are you going to draw it in blood, like in red?
It's definitely going to be number 10. And then we got his most recent entry, The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy. I will include it.
I would also include it.
Yeah. Knowing what we've passed and knowing that this is the last, I'm going to say yes. And it's not even a recency bias thing. He was fantastic in The Fall Guy. He is the reason you watch that movie, and he carries the whole film. It is phenomenal. I can't wait to see his next film, and hoping he just keeps it up. And interested to watch his career arc still.
Now that gives us 9 films.
Let's go through the 9.
All right. So our 9 for sures that are greenlit: Barbie, The Fall Guy, Blade Runner 2049, La La Land, Drive, Only God Forgives, Half Nelson, Lars and the Real Girl, and Blue Valentine. In our maybes, we've got First Man.
Yep.
We have The Big Short. We have Fracture.
Yep.
We have Crazy Stupid Love.
Yep.
We have Place Beyond the Pines, and we have The Notebook.
Ouch. I think it's got to be The Notebook. Right?
I think it does.
Because
I do think
even if you don't think that, like mute your thought, because I think we can wrap it up pretty quick. I was thinking, Place Beyond the Pines, but you go, he's not in it long enough because they cut into 2 movies. So even though I love his performance in that, it's not enough to include it.
I'm totally happy with The Notebook.
Yeah, and what were the other maybes?
The other maybes
Because
were
we said Fracture.
Fracture,
Yeah.
Crazy Stupid Love,
Yeah. And
The Big Short, and First Man.
Yeah. And I mean, in the moment we said The Big Short as well, he's not in it long enough for it to be really considered a major role. So that's automatically out. And that kind of left Gangster Squad, Crazy Stupid Love, Fracture. But
I personally, I liked Fracture better than The Notebook, but I mean, we're talking about like an iconic role. Like I think that it just like The Notebook kind of feels more right as being a. Doesn't work without him. It was his introduced into the mega stardom.
Yeah, so I interpret it through the lens of these were for performance.
Yeah.
For performance. Is this the best performance Gosling has given? And I go, for Fracture, comparing to The Notebook, it didn't add to his career. Fracture didn't.
No, it didn't.
And it didn't add to his chops. I enjoyed the movie more than The Notebook because that kind of topic is more interesting to me. I'm just not as interested these days in just a love story. That being said, the iconic character of Nicholas Sparks' novels, what it meant for Gosling's career in Rachel Adams, just the whole everything leading up to it, then their performances, of course, it's got to be included.
Right.
Yeah.
So how about we do this?
Under duress?
we'll have our we'll rank our 10 now.
Yeah.
Now,
because you want Barbie at 10.
For two reasons. One is because I'm not the hugest fan of the film, but also because it's a major it's a supporting role.
Well, then I'll give you this. Then we include The Notebook, but at 10, so I can have Barbie at 9.
Okay. Under duress, I'll do it. All right, Notebook at 10.
Yep.
And Barbie at 9.
Mm.
Oh my God, I feel dirty. I do.
Take a shower after this.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to have like one of those nuclear radiation level showers. Like I've just been exposed to Chernobyl. Oh God. All right, so then next, I would say maybe Fall Guy at number 8.
If Fall Guy's at 8, what's at 7?
All right, so then we start getting into if Fall Guy's at 8, then I would say number 7 would probably be Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering. Because I know you really liked Lars, and I know you liked Half Nelson. All that leading up, I kind of want to know where you thought those were sitting. So if you reckon those are going to be around the 7s, then
only because like with the Fall Guy is because the third act kind of lulls.
Yep.
And all of the other films are like for me good all the way through.
Yeah. No,
it's sort of it's a popcorn movie.
Yep. Fair enough
for our brand.
You've sold me. That's where it sits.
I would next go. What my proposal would be that number 7 would be between Lars and the Real Girl and Blue Valentine.
I need to do a rewatch, but I can't find the Lars and the Real Girl.
It is so difficult. There's no way for us to see it.
And the only reason why I'm saying this is if you reckon Blue Valentine sits right next door, Blue Valentine was so impacting on me watching it those performances that
I'm happy to personally bump Blue Valentine up into the higher end.
Yeah.
But maybe we get a drafted 10, and then if we kind of feel like we want to fight for something to be a little higher.
Yeah.
So how about we put Lars at 7?
Lars at 7. I'm fine with that.
And based on how you feel about Blue Valentine, then I would say Half Nelson at 6 and Blue Valentine at 5.
Yeah, deal. Yeah, that sounds right. Blue Valentine I only recently watched, and for the first time. And it's not a recency bias thing. There's something about real life relationship films that capture an essence of life or real life or pain, the breakdown, um, it impacted me. So I kind of right after I watched it, I was upset with the film. I even said out loud to Mrs. V, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch this film again, almost just because of the emotions and everything about it. But it was incredible. So definite top 5. Yeah.
Cool. So I think that next we have to do the Nicholas Winding Refn films, and it's just about what order that is in. Either Drive at 4 and Only God Forgives at 3.
Yeah, and I feel like it needs to swap in the main. I don't. Okay, I understand why you could maybe say that it is Only God Forgives at 3, because Gosling doesn't talk, and he carries the movie still, and that is hard to do.
It's also a bit more like a Tarantino film.
And it shows you the range of Gosling. That's why we are doing this episode, to kind of prove to you the range, to prove to ourselves the range, and kind of be like blown away by it, because he doesn't really make many misses of films. What we say misses of, like, they're not worth your time, don't watch them. I will do Only God Forgives at 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Which
I'll definitely give it to you for that.
Drive at 4.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like we can kind of agree that it'll be Blade Runner at number 2 and La La Land at number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got some thoughts on that? There was a little hesitation.
Well, they the hesitation is they are so different from each other. I mean, well, literally, one is a sci-fi. They're otherworldly from each other. And one is a musical. It is just so odd that we are ranking films and top 10 films, and from a Hollywood blockbuster superstar actor, and that we are saying this person's best movies is a musical and a sci-fi. I love that.
Me too.
And that is the point of our podcast.
Totally.
Of Film Dogs, of pulling this apart. Because these are fantastic movies, fantastic performances. Mad props to Ryan Gosling and the work that you put into your career and choices on roles, interpretation of roles. It is
prioritization of family.
Yeah, he's somebody that you just have to. How could you not like the guy? And if you go, I don't really like his movies, that's fine. How could you not then like the guy, knowing how he's built his career or his film choices,
admire his work ethic,
his family work ethic, that sort of thing? He's somebody he doesn't. Yeah, I can respect how he kind of lives his life in and out of the spotlight, or what's at least painted of both of those people.
He's got a great publicist.
Yeah.
So shall we recap our top 10 ranked
Let's
Ryan
do it.
Gosling?
Top 10.
This has been a Film Dogs Top 10 production, the Ryan Gosling edition, and our list as Film Dogs, and negotiated some of these under duress. At number 10, we have The Notebook. At number 9, we have Barbie. I can't believe I just said that out loud.
You're welcome.
Number 8, we have his most recent addition to the filmography, The Fall Guy. At number 7, we have Lars and the Real Girl. Number 6, Half Nelson. At number 5, Blue Valentine. Number 4, Drive. Number 3, Only God Forgives. Number 2, the sci-fi classic Blade Runner 2049. And capping it up, number 1, one of Lord Marcus's favorite films of all time, La La Land.
Amazing.
But this has been very fun.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this conversation. I as we were talking during this episode, I've just been watching a lot of his movies recently for 2 reasons. The Fall Guy was coming out, and we wanted to do an episode potentially on that movie. But leading into it, I'm just really liking his movies. So I just started watching them, and then we're like, well, why don't we do a top 5 or a top 10? And let's talk about it, since The Fall Guy's coming out now. And because I've been watching all of these Gosling movies, it just made sense to do to do the episode, but I loved this one.
I do too, and I just want to say that one of the things that I'm really enjoying these days is like when a movie like The Fall Guy comes out, to sort of be in that universe of picking something where you see a massive filmography, where you just see like whether it's the director or whether it's an actor or even a studio like A24, is to sort of surround yourself in the blanket of those other performances and sort of just live in that world of being entertained by Ryan Gosling, or sort of at the end of the year with Robert Eggers. I want to revisit those filmographies. When you sort of do it as a collection, it gives maybe your film watching list a little more purpose.
Yeah.
And you pay a little bit more attention. And I've really enjoyed revisiting what has been available for me to watch.
100%.
I'm really disappointed that I can't do a rewatch of Half Nelson or Lars and the Real Girl right now. But man, they're in my watch list, and as soon as they become available, even to see in a theater or to even pay for, I'll be right up there.
And he's a great actor to recommend movies for couples to watch, which is what's great. Is you listen to this episode and there's going to be a lot of movies you probably have never seen or heard of that Gosling's done, and you go, oh, I didn't know he did that. Yeah, I'd watch that. And the nice thing is a lot of these would be options to be able to watch with your significant other, and they'll probably like it as well, because Gosling is great at his job.
He demand, Sir Gosling, we've knighted you. Please come hang in Australia with 2 fans.
But thanks for listening to the Film Dogs. Feel free to follow us on our film adventures and journeys together. You can find us on Letterboxd. I'm on Mr. B, or you can look for Brent and Blurry.
Or Mark Robinson with the tagline Lord Marcus. And I cordially invite you to invite us to go to the movies with you, and we will be your designated drivers, even if you live in Russia.
Even in Russia. If you want to find us on Instagram, you can find us at The Film Dogs. Threads is not really a thing, but it's attached to Instagram, so I'm sure you can find us on there as well, or Facebook under The Film Dogs.
Damn.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. And remember, life's too short for bad cinema.